Hello everyone, my name is Jessica, aka Animated Jess, and in this video I will show you how I went about drawing Zero. But before we get started, please hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell to be notified when I make more videos. Okay, so here we are with Zero, and yeah, it's really interesting how this project started. And yeah, it is an NFT project. I basically am going to be making about one of these a week, one animated version, and then some static non-animated versions. Right now I have 8. And yeah, it took me a bit to get here, I guess. Not so much in terms of work, I would say, but more so mentally. I had to overcome like some hurdles. I think that as artists or creative people, I think have to go through, I guess. And before this, there's another project that I started, and I just wasn't very happy with it, I guess. And it wasn't because it was bad, but I just thought that I could do so much better. And those doubts and insecurities really got to me. And I think I think it's interesting because with art, like, there's I feel like it's almost like a dancing between that balance of pushing yourself, but also drawing within from the things that you've learned in the past, right? So growing, always like growing, and it's good to challenge yourself a bit. But I think I got to the point where it wasn't really like I think it wasn't really a good balance, like I think it was a bit too much of a challenge, the project that I had before, and I realized that it may be just best to kind of I guess pull back a little bit, right? And I started to think about what is it that I do feel a little bit more comfortable with, and I thought about robots. And it's funny because I don't really think of myself as being like a huge like fan of robots in general, but looking back at some of the art that I've made, and not everything I've posted, but a lot of times I have drawn robots actually, and I think it's it's fun. And so I thought, well, I guess one of the reasons I really considered it is because I think with robots, they have structure, right? Like with humans it's a little bit more complex. I do love drawing human characters, but they can be a little bit more challenging. But yeah, with robots, they have structure, they have shape, and I think I do well enough to like think about these simpler shapes in space, right? Or or animating, or moving them around, right? Like it's more mechanical, right? And so to me that felt more comfortable, and so I decided to go with it. And at the same time, I did still want to try something new. And as you can see here, like I was kind of going with the style that I had before. In a previous video, I was exploring different styles, and so like I was able to kind of incorporate me playing around with different styles into making Zero here. Even though actually with the shadows I did end up dropping them later on, because I figured that it would be more difficult to animate if I had kept them in, so I decided to drop it after. But there's a lot of things that I did, end up keeping. Um, and so, yeah, and I'm really, glad that I went in this direction, because even though like this, felt more comfortable, like I was still, I do still feel like this is, challenge, and this is still allowing me to grow, as an artist. But I think it's good because I think, we're all good at something, and I'm not saying like I'm this great artist or anything, but with art it's really difficult, and there's always so much to learn. And I think it's easy to like beat ourselves up over all the different ways that we haven't, achieved, I guess, the things that we want to achieve artistically, and compare, right, like to other people. But I think something that we may not actually do a lot as artists is reflect, right? Like reflect, where we were, right? Like maybe, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago, and like a month ago, right? And I think when we take time to do that, we can see the ways that we have grown and different things that we've learned, and we can appreciate the progress that we've made. And also I think that's also a way of us, by reflecting, we're also able to find the things that we are, strong at. And with art, like I realized something kind of recently, is that you don't have to be good at everything within art to be a great artist. I think it's good to know the basics, of course, but I think us like maybe like having like too much, like I guess pressure, putting too much pressure on ourselves to like know all these things can actually hinder us, right? Because we can't really be a master at everything. Well, maybe some people can, but I think majority of us cannot. And so I think it may be worthwhile to think about, where is it that you want to be, like what is it that you want to achieve, and think about exactly what it's going to take to get there. So, as opposed to trying to figure everything out and trying to do everything, maybe more worthwhile to think about what exactly you need, and that can save some time and frustration and energy, and then you can focus on creating, the things that you like, because it would be really, it would be really sad if you end up, making art that you're not even happy, like doing it. Because, it's, I think if we're not even going in with the right attitude, it may or may not show. But I think, when we go in feeling more confident, and and we like, what we're working on, I think it can make a difference for sure. And so, I think once I let go of the things, all the things that I thought that I needed to do, and just started to brainstorm, thinking about really like what is it that that I am good at right now, because I didn't want to wait, right? Like I wanted to start working on a project, right away. And so I had to slow down a little bit and think about like what, with the skill set that I have, like what could I accomplish? And so, I thought, making a robot, and then I started making some sketches, and, this is what, this was the result, essentially. And if you've watched my previous videos before, you know that I have worked on animations before, and making animation is a lot of work. It's so much work, and I love animating I love being able to bring a story to life and all that. But I think the reason that I haven't really been making an animation over the last few years is because it's just so time consuming. But I still want to do it. So I had to think about how I could, resolve that. And so I figured, if I'm going to be making NFT and I want to make it, animated, well, I could do that, right? Or, I mean, I wanted to make it interesting, so I thought maybe I could make it animated. And, and I thought, well, yeah, I could just make these really short, looping animations, I guess, that's doable, right? And so it's interesting because I think that limits can actually help us to be creative, right? I think when we put constraints on ourselves, it can help. And I don't know if you feel like that. Let me know down in the comments if you feel that way. But I think, yeah, I generally feel that, when I'm working on anything. If there's too much freedom, it can be hard to make decisions, right? And I actually did experience that too, to an extent when I was working on this. I think color was by far the most difficult part. So this is, what you're seeing here on the screen, because, I'm making an original character, and so, there is no, template really. Like I could do anything. And for whatever reason, color is just the most difficult thing, right? Like just there's, I've learned color theory and, know, generally what works well together, color wise, but still like trying to figure out like what is, the best, color combination for what I have was difficult, and for all the different parts, right? And it's one thing, when they're humans, like you just have to pick color skin and right, like some colors here and there, but this is like a whole robot, right, with a lot of moving parts, so I had to think about that. And so I think that was probably the most difficult thing actually when I was working on Zero. But I think but before getting to this part, just designing the character and thinking about what I want to achieve, it actually helped me a lot, because basically, like, I just told myself I want to be, I want to feel comfortable enough working on this character where I'm not just like doubting myself like every second. And I wanted to be able to create an animatable character, right? So it couldn't be too complex, right? Because I also want to create, an animation at least once a week. So I had some constraints that I was working with from the beginning, and that helped. That helped a lot. I think to kind of drive the direction of this character, and and it helped a lot. I think I was able to come up with something that I was pretty happy with. Though yeah, this part was definitely frustrating, but I think at this point in particular, I think it was kind of starting to come together, because I was thinking it's funny because like I actually have a very vague story of this character, background story, but I actually figured that I could tie that into the project itself. And so the idea is that like as you watch the different animations that I create as NFTs, you'll be able to learn more and more about this robot. Who is Zero, right? But I actually don't even know who Zero is yet. But as I was drawing and as I was coming up with the different color schemes and, you know, playing around with it, certain things actually started to come to mind. I started to, you know, I started to, like a story started to develop in my mind, and it was really fascinating actually experiencing that because, like I said, I didn't have, you know, too much of the story going in, but it was so fun. It was just so fun. Um, the colors in a way like guided me to, you know, creating more like building, you know, blocks of the story. And yeah, so as you can see, like the color scheme is, you know, like reddish and greenish, but like kind of rustic, you know, some, you know, rusty parts, I guess. As you can see, like, yeah, and even the colors are like more like muted and faded, and to me, like that actually, it made me think like, wow, like this robot, right, like it's kind of old, you know, like it doesn't seem like a modern robot, you know, and not to say that we have like all these robots around us, right, but it didn't look like a flashy robot, right? And so I think that, you know, kind of made me think of, you know, maybe like Zero can be a junk bot or something, right? And, you know, I don't want to say too much because, like I said, like the story will be evolving as, you know, as I release more and more of these NFTs. But yeah, I just, you know, say that it's fun, like, you know, having the character kind of speak to you, you know. And so yeah, so I think at this point I started to like enjoy this process more, and I was grateful for it because I think if I wasn't like exploring as much, you know, with the different colors, then I wouldn't have come up with the story in a way that I had, you know. And yeah, and it was I think at this point, you know, like it was, you know, just adding the finishing touches, right? Like adding some highlights and doing like some color corrections here and there and fixing, you know, like details and things like that. So yeah, I think I try to see like if, you know, if adding like shadows would, you know, deeper shadows would, you know, look good, and I didn't really like it as much, so yeah, I just ended up removing it and keeping it pretty simple. And yeah, well, I don't think I removed it at this point quite yet, but I will soon. Yeah, I just thought it would be too much. So there are actually some parts of me playing around with the character that I didn't end up putting in this video just because I thought it would just be a lot, especially since it didn't really end up being part of the final character. But I did have them saved, and I'm thinking maybe I'll release those as NFTs one day. Yeah, so here I'm approaching the end, just adding some final touches, and I'll be done soon. And I was pretty happy with the results. This is, you know, my junk bot Zero. So yeah, this was made in Photoshop, and I don't have the footage of me animating it. I did animate using After Effects and Moho Animation Studio, and just because I was just trying to figure that out, so I didn't really want to film me like struggling, and I just learned After Effects, so yeah, that's why I didn't show it. But yeah, but here's the, you know, the I guess, yeah, the result. Well, not quite. Almost. There. There is the result. So that's the animated, version that you saw in the beginning. And yeah, it can be purchased as an NFT. Link is below. It's on OpenSea. And thank you for watching this video. And if you like this video, if you enjoy the content, you can subscribe as well, and you can hit the bell to be notified when I make more videos. Please follow me on Twitter too, because I've been pretty active there, and that's where I'll be, doing giveaways and just, talking to you all and keeping you updated on what I'm doing, especially in relation to Zero. So yeah, check it out. Thank you. Bye.